I want all parents with kids that's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. This video is for you. Um, you have raised your kid. You are not a perfect parent. You didn't do everything right, neither did I. I definitely wasn't a perfect parent. And if you did show up to some football games, if you did go up to the school, if you did cook, if you did wash clothes for them, you do not have to allow no grown ass kid to sit there and hold you in bondage just because they're your kid. You have done everything you're supposed to do as a parent, even though you were not perfect. I want to free you today. I want to rid you of guilt. I want to rid you of the manipulation that, hey, you're my dad and you're supposed to buy me a car, or you're supposed to do this, or you're supposed to let me continue to live in your house and not take out the garbage and not pay bills and not do yard work. The sense of entitlement. And I want to free you today. And I want to let you know that you are not living your best life if you allow your biological son or daughter that don't want to work, don't want to educate themselves, don't want to be better, don't want to take out the garbage, don't want to wash their own clothes, don't want to clean up their room, very disrespectful, and want to use your car, don't want to wash it out or clean it out, and just have a sense of entitlement. And I want to encourage you today, if you want some peace in your life, or it can lead to your death, whether it be a heart attack, whether it be a stroke, or whether them bringing the wrong people in your house that come in the house.
Good afternoon, friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint, and this week's show is called Helping versus Handicapping Your Child. And I have two guests on today. I have my brother Michael Johnson, back from last week's show, and I have a new guest on, long-time participant in the show, LeDa Bishop. And how y'all doing today? Good. Okay. So this, like I said, this week's show is handicapping or helping versus handicapping your child. And the intro dialogue was from Ricky Smiley, and I just came across that today. I was doing something, and I was looking at things about people parenting and things like that, and I came across that video. I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of stuff he was saying, and but I wanted to share a lot of the stuff that I may be coming from, or angles I may be coming from when we talk about this. So first of all, how many kids do you have, Ms. Bishop?
I have 5.
You have 5 kids? Mm-hmm. Boys, girls?
I have 4 boys and 1 girl.
4 boys and 1 girl. And you, Mike?
3.
You have 3?
Mm-hmm.
Boys, girls?
1 boy, 2 girls.
1 boy, 2. Come
1
on
girl,
now.
2 boys.
Okay.
Oh man.
All right. So y'all have multiple children, and I guess the first thing I want to ask is that is it an age that you feel like you want your kids out the house?
Nah, not me.
There's no age limit, really.
No, not really.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you want them to all blossom and get out on their own, but I don't have.
It's not a certain age that you was hoping that they would blossom and get out on their own, or nothing like that.
It's by 21.
By 21, and you, Mike?
Like 25, maybe.
25?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's interesting because that's a lot later than a lot of us as black people set up for our kids. A lot of us be like 18, things like that. I'd like to thank Coretta for showing up, and this is actually a topic that Coretta suggested. I appreciate the suggestion, and my cousin JD Lou, I appreciate you showing up this week, cuz, and Avelina, I appreciate you, and Aisha, I appreciate y'all. And everyone that shows up, I do want to ask y'all, is there an age that you think that the kids should be out of your house? And if y'all could just put that down, I just want to get the post of what I figure a lot of black people coming up. It's like by the time you're 18, but when I was coming up, it was like I couldn't wait to be 18. That's how people felt. Like kids would be like, I can't wait to be 18 where I can leave, because then I guess the jurisdiction changes with your child. And you know, a lot of times the children are rebellious when they're teenagers and they want to be out, and they can't wait to be out. And I guess the terms in which they leave is also important when we're having this discussion. And I think 18 is pretty much the age when they graduating from high school. And I had a friend of mine, I used to coach with him, and he had two boys that we used to coach on the same Pop Warner. But when his boys got finished with high school, he basically told me like about the graduation that night. And he told me, he said, it's going to be garbage bags with their clothes in it on the porch. They got to find something to do. And I was kind of shocked. I'd laughed at it. And he had a daughter too. Like he had twin boys, but they was both 18 at the time. They graduated, and what it was is graduation. It wasn't the age, it was the graduation. Mm-hmm. And he said, you got to find something to do. That's what he was telling me, how his rules were. You 18, you got to find something to do. Your clothes going to be on the porch. Either you're going to school, which you probably should be away from home, going to school, I'm guessing, or you're going in the military or something. And I thought that was kind of cold. But and I asked him, I said, you going to do your daughter the same way? She was younger. He's like, nah, it's different for girls. So, I mean, that's how it was. And you know, that's how it was. And I heard a lot of people say that. I'd be glad when they 18, you know.
Yeah, was he just talking just to talk, or was he serious?
Nah, dude, he was serious.
Really?
Because I didn't bring it up. And I was like, man, you know, they graduate, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. And they're like, they need the time for them to get on. And he told me, he said,
what you're talking about. I know he was like that. So
yeah, so I'm like, man, I was like, wow. You know, and I'm going to read the comment. Coretta said, I think 25 to 27, and that's a very mature age. I appreciate the comment. And JD said, I'm raising my son and giving him the tools to want to be self-sufficient and independent. I'm not kicking him out at 18 as long as he's in college, work, trying to get on his own. I feel like as black folks, we kick our kids out before they are ready. I appreciate that comment. And Aisha said, I'm going to go back to that comment, by the way. Aisha said 25. And a lot of, like 25, 27, that's basically, because if your kid doesn't go to college, I'm guessing y'all still would say 25. Like they should be able to find their way in their life. I know you said about 25, right?
Yeah, I think maturity is at its best at 25.
At 25.
Yeah, that's true. But I said 21. However, I still have one that still living at home with me that's over the age of 25.
Okay.
You know, but I don't have a problem with it. My thing is, as a parent, I don't care. I bought a home. That's their home.
Right.
So home is going to always be home. However, you're not just going to lay around our house and do nothing.
Okay, and I think that's the thing right there. Like JD was saying, that's why I said I was going to go back to that. You said as, you know, you're preparing him, preparing your son, to, you know, be ready to get out, to be independent. You know, you say you're not kicking him out, but you're preparing him. And I think that's the main thing that I was trying to get at is, you said we as black people put our kids out before they're ready. And I think that's a big thing that people have to realize. You know your child. And I don't think it's a set age for anyone to say you should be going. I think people deal with their kids, and we shouldn't let society dictate, you know, man, that person 27 years old, they still at home or whatever. I think by my perspective on how the world is against us, I think we have to take that into consideration, that the world is trying to make things harder for our kids.
Right.
So we have to prepare our kids for the world. And in the animal kingdom, as y'all could probably tell, I'm good at big into animals and stuff. In the animal kingdom, a mammal doesn't just desert its offspring unless they are prepared to deal with everything that they have to deal with. If they have instilled everything into them, hunting, eating, whatever it is, running, survival. And I think that's the same thing that we have to keep in mind. We have to raise our offsprings with the mindset of them being able to survive.
Right.
So that's how I see that. I don't put an age limit on that. I appreciate that. And I'm gonna read a few comments before, if y'all want to add in. I know Aisha said, well, they say the male mind. See, let's see. As soon as I start reading, y'all think I'm like Shaq, right? Like it's like a ball. But what's happening is, as one person, when somebody comments, everything just starts flowing up. So I start reading and then it's leaving. I'm trying to get to it before it goes off my page. And now I got to go all the way back down. Back to Aisha. She said, well, they say the male mind doesn't mature until 25. The law says you're responsible for them up until 21. I appreciate that. And I do want to get into that, the whole thing about responsibility.
That's true. My oldest, he wasn't ready to leave
He
before
wasn't?
he was 25. No, he was like, are you really my kid?
Well, did you make it hard for him? Did you make it tough for him?
No, I didn't make it tough for him.
Okay. Was it tough for you when you was ready to leave home?
Nah.
It wasn't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
And it's
What
all
about you?
Maturity.
What about you? Was it tough for you? What time did you leave home?
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ready to leave?
No, of course I was never ready to leave because I had bills.
Okay.
You know, I have to make bills on my own then. So,
Okay.
but no, I wasn't ready to leave. But I was mature enough to leave.
Okay.
See, that's
Did you express that? Or did you have a choice?
Yeah, I
Or
had
was
a
your
choice.
stuff out on the porch one day? You came.
No.
Somebody send you to the store.
Lots
I
of
had a
change.
choice. I had a choice. Actually, my mother moved to Georgia, and
Okay.
I decided I didn't want to go,
Okay.
and so I stayed here.
Okay. And when did you leave home?
I think I was joined the military. I think I was like 20.
20? You joined the military?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think I did too. I did as well. I actually signed up probably when I was 17, but I couldn't officially leave until I was 18.
Yeah.
Like they let me I don't know what they call that now, but I kind of I took the test, everything. I graduated early. I was like a 16-year-old senior, and I couldn't do anything at that time, and I probably wasn't mature because most of my 12, everybody was doing their career stuff, and I was 16 when everybody was deciding. They was 18 and things like that. And then I turned 17 right before graduation, and I still wasn't mature, but I knew I had to find something to do. And I think the military was the thing that escaping the hood. I think your environment does a lot to determine about where you want to go and how, and that probably determines a lot on how parents want to hover over their kids.
Right.
So I think the military was the thing, and coming up on the east side, that you're looking outside, it's dangerous. You're gonna get caught up one way or another.
Right.
And mature decision to make, of which no one knew I was making that decision. My parents didn't know. I just came home, I was trying to find work. I went to trade school. So by the time I was still 17, I had basically found myself out of options, viable options. Of course, the drug stuff was out there, and friends getting killed, going to prison. It's kind of like that. That kind of helps you decide that you got to get away. I know JD said I talked to him about his future now, so it won't be no surprise. And at what age is he at right now, if you want to share that JD, I know you say you're talking to your son about that. Avelina said, my daughter graduated at 17 and had a job and moved out at 23. Okay, I appreciate that. And Coretta said, as long as my child is working or doing something to become independent. I appreciate that. And I think, because they'll get a job. Sometimes I'm not talking. And the thing is, are they trying to be independent? Because sometimes they'll get a job just to have their parent off their back, and they're not doing anything. Like they'll get a job and be spending all their money on shoes or concerts and fashion, and that's not preparing them for the future or to be independent. Right. So that's a big thing with me. I was in a situation being with somebody else's child that was about that time, and my thing was the age doesn't matter, but they got a good job, and they had a real good job coming out of high school, trade type job, making good money, but they was buying DJ equipment, stuff like that, electronics, the bigger speakers. And I'm like, they should be trying to buy furniture. We got storage, something to be preparing, at least putting your money away too, because that's preparing for independence, and they wasn't doing that, and that caused the conflict. That's another topic that we're gonna get into when you're dealing with somebody else's kids and how they raised them, and that child being in the household. I appreciate the comment though, Coretta. And JD said, but animals were born with instincts. Humans have to be taught everything they learn. And I understand that, and you're right. Animals, some mammals are, if you look at a rattlesnake, they totally independent upon birth. They have venom, they have the weapons that they need, they have everything that they need to survive. Some mammals are totally dependent on their parent until they reach a certain age. They suckle, they gain a bit of maturity, they teach them how to hunt, or they teach them how to get away from prey, and they at a certain point then they leave the group or they become independent. And that's the main thing, however that comes about. Instincts, that's one thing that the animals have, but a lot of mammals are born helpless. A lot of humans are helpless until they are at a mature enough level. Especially the variable is the conditions that they have and we have. Our conditions change generation wise. When I was coming up, having a high school diploma was a big thing. That was as far as you were expected.
So yeah,
after a while, like now, that's not, okay, after high school, you gotta, people will say, well, what college, what you plan to do? What college? They don't even push trades and stuff like that, which I think that we should be pushing. But the whole thing is survival. If our kids don't have the instinct to survive, then we have to instill the instincts to survive. What I'm getting at with mammals, even though they have instincts, they don't abandon them when they're not able to fend for themselves yet. They abandon them, or I don't even think it's an abandonment. I think they're ready to go when they're ready to defend themselves and able to. And that's what we have to deal with our kids, like the early putting kids out when they're not ready to face the world yet. That's maturity. An animal will put or abandon their kids. You don't see like a mama bear coming back to defend a grown ass. That's still my baby, you know what I'm saying? That mother got Clay 800 pounds and his mama bear still running behind. You don't see that, but you will see that with us.
Right.
And they'll say that's still my baby. And some of these people, a lot of times they're women, they're babying these boys and babying. I don't know if they baby girls as much, but they do baby boys, and maybe they baby both of them, but it's more evident when you got a boy. And I remember something happened at work, and I said, I went to someone's house years back, and I was asking the guy, like, what kind of problems y'all have? I worked on internet services and stuff like that, and he started fussing and cussing at me, and I just looked at him. I'm like, okay, but I need to get to know. You don't need to get anything. You get your butt up. And he talking to me like that, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, well, I'll come back when y'all ready to deal with me. So what happens is the mom calls up the company because she wasn't at home. And the company calls me. I'm on another job. Like, what happened with this ticket? You didn't fix it. You returned it. I'm like, well, he wasn't being cooperative. And I told the lady was on the phone. And she said, well, my son, blah, blah, blah. And he said that you told him. I said, well, first of all, he acted like he was pissed off about something. And she had a fit when I said that. Don't talk about my baby like that. I'm like, this dude got a goatee. He like 28 years old. And she's going up talking about my baby. And I'm like, so maybe when she was talking to the company, they thought it was like just an 18-year-old. But I'm saying some people treat their males, and you defending this guy that's being, imagine if he was out in the streets dealing with somebody and they kicked his butt. She gonna be out there, my baby, you hurt my baby. But I'm saying, like, I think people baby their kids to that extent too, and that's hindering. That's handicapping. If every time they have problems when they move out, you run into their aid.
Yeah, call mama.
Yeah, call mama, call daddy sometime.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a daughter. And I think that's a way that we can be handicapping our kids. Did y'all feel like y'all was at that point that y'all could always call home and get help?
If I called my mom, my mom will be there for me.
Did it matter on what it was?
I mean, no. But I never had to call them and ask them for any help.
Okay. But I'm saying, did you think that you could?
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way if you're independent and they say, okay, this person never calls, then it's like, okay. And what was you going to say?
I was independent. I didn't want to call home.
Yeah.
I was going to either... I was either going to pass or fail on my own. Right. I didn't want to call home and be like, hey mama, I don't have this or I don't have that, can you loan me this? Can you bring me this? I didn't want that.
Okay. Did you find people in the military that was like that was always calling home or asking for stuff? Well, the military made them pretty much independent, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the military matures you.
What branch were you in?
I was in the Navy.
Oh, y'all had discipline in the Navy?
Yeah, we had discipline.
I mean, besides having to hold your breath when you went underwater, but
we had discipline.
Y'all had like a basic training too?
We had basic. Okay.
I'm just messing with them. I was in the Army, but them drill sergeants or whatever, drill instructor, they be in your face and you ain't no crying to mama and stuff. Then
I wasn't mature, and I didn't want anybody in my face yelling and screaming at me and stuff like that. So they humbled me real quick. So there's this thing in the Navy was called well, they set me back a couple weeks, so I couldn't go home when I wanted to.
Okay.
And it was like, all right, man, I need to do what they say,
Okay.
Yeah, but that matured me real quick. It was like, you know what? They're not trying to hurt me. They're trying to help me be better.
Right.
And when I finally accepted that, then, I was a different person after that.
Okay. Do you think, were y'all disciplinarians as parents?
I was.
You was?
Mm-hmm.
And which way?
So in every way.
Right.
He was like, I want the house clean, I want your room clean,
my main thing for my kids was keeping my house up and keeping your grades up. Those are the only two requirements you had in my house as a kid growing up.
For real, so they could cuss and talk back?
Oh, no, we ain't.
So, you saying only requirements.
Well, I'm just saying, but like the main requirements as far as school-age kids. But no, you wasn't going to curse and all of that.
You had to be respectful.
You say yes,
also,
ma'am. Yes, sir.
Now, see, y'all taking that as because a lot of times that's not the case in a lot of people's households.
And
you could tell the difference. So I'm saying I'm not taking that for granted that you have to be respectful.
I didn't know anybody growing up that was disrespectful.
Really? See, I knew people that was out there like doing stuff with their kids. or not really caring about where their kids was at.
I wasn't at my.
I mean, you have some parents that are like that.
Yeah, and as a parent, like for me, if you wanted to go over to your friend's house, I had to go meet those parents. Right. I had to know who those parents were.
Boys and girls?
Both.
Okay.
Yep. You want to go spend the night where? Well, I ain't talked to anybody yet. I ain't met nobody's parents.
I want to know where they live. I need to talk to the mom and daddy. I need to talk to somebody.
All right, I'm going to read a comment right quick. She said, Coretta said, I was once guilty of giving my son's money for his pleasure items, and he wasn't working or doing nothing. Once I stopped, his ass got a job. And I think that's I think when we give our kids, we all know basically you give your kid, they don't appreciate it.
Right.
The things that you give them, like something like I know Ricky Smiley was saying something about they think they're entitled to a car and things like that. I didn't get that kind of stuff, so I wasn't seeing that kind of stuff. I didn't even have that type of mentality because everything around me, nobody was getting cars from their parents.
Right. And see, like as a parent, I can admit to this is that I wanted my kids to have what I didn't.
Right.
So I already had it predetermined. You know, to turn 16, I'm gonna get them a car. You know, driver's license and stuff like that. You know, as far as clothes, like if they wanted, like Jordan, my sons wanted Jordans. All right, I'm gonna get you Jordans. You know, my daughter wanted, you know, whatever it was, I'm gonna get it for them and stuff like that. And by me doing that, if I could take back some of my parenting, I would take that back.
Right.
Because they didn't appreciate anything because it was always given to them.
Okay.
I mean, and it's also different too, based on, you know, when we were growing up, you know, we didn't have the social media, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have any of that. It was by 12, you know, the house is cleaned up by 12, you outside, and you just make sure you come in the house before the lights come on, the street lights on. So that's all we had growing up. And, you know, we didn't have bottled water. You get some water out the waterfalls, you know, out the hydrant, and that's it. They don't see you the whole day. But see, now with kids, they got cell phones, they got internet, they got social media, they have all of that to entertain them. And as a parent, we hindering them in that aspect as well, because we allow them to participate in a lot of that.
You think you allowed your kids to participate in that?
Yeah, like being on, you know, all the social media stuff, and you know.
That's the generational.
Really, the generational thing.
And I want to so all right, let me I got two different things on this. Like Mike, you were saying that was one thing that if you could do over is not just be so giving to them of the things that you probably didn't have people giving to you, or just spoiling them to a certain degree.
That's it right there. I would have made them earn it.
And how would you do that if you had it to do again? How would you make them earn the things that you were giving them?
Cutting the grass, keeping the house clean.
You didn't make them cut grass?
Nah, I have this thing about my yard, man.
Oh, okay.
It has to look a certain way. You know, the lines. Yeah. You know, some kind of weird OCD thing, but the lines have to be a certain way and stuff like that, man.
Okay.
But you know, like maybe mopping or you know, vacuuming and
making sure they did chores to earn what they did.
More chores than what they were already like doing.
More responsibilities.
Right.
Preparing them. I mean, I know you weren't going to be a drill sergeant, like
no. But I mean, maybe a little bit more stricter, you know, because I was just like, Dad, can I get these Jordan? How much are they? Okay, well, I'm gonna work a couple extra hours or whatever, you know, make sure that you get your Jordans, you know, not having them do extra stuff around the house to get those Jordans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. What age were they at when you were doing that for them? Teenage or?
From birth until maybe like 16, maybe
Okay.
16, 17.
Did you do the same type of stuff for your kids like that?
No, I didn't have to worry about their shoes. Their daddy took care of all their shoes, so I didn't have
Okay.
to worry about none of that.
But I'm saying, were they demanding about what they wanted?
No, my kids, they were pretty much, you know, they didn't really ask for much.
Okay.
So, but I was, about the house thing, but no, they don't ask for anything.
Okay. And I think as a parent, let me say this. This is how I feel about parenting. I think to successfully raise kids, you have to successfully raise yourself. That's if I could make a blanket statement like that. And when I'm saying success, that could be any variable that you want to make you deem was successful to you. If you think successful is them getting out, having their own stuff, and scraping to make it, I think that I didn't prepare my kids correctly for life.
All right. Well, you know what, mine, they are doing good. My
Right.
daughter's doing good. My oldest son is doing good. My youngest son is doing good. But as a parent, I was trying to be both parents, right?
Okay.
Because I had, they were with me. I didn't have any help or anything like that. So when they wanted something, I'm like, okay, let me get it for them, to kind of compensate the fact that they didn't have,
Right.
you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like the mom and stuff like that. So, but still, I still wish that I would have done some things differently.
Yeah, I think we learn on the fly. I think
Yeah.
that's part of and what I mean when I'm saying raise yourself, a lot of us are raising kids, and the best examples that we have is how we were raised. And a lot of times the example is not that you follow that example, but it's saying, okay, I didn't have this, but I wanted this, and I want my kids to have this.
Right.
And some of the things, some people would just raise their kids the same ways that they were being raised and felt like that was good enough. Some people would say, well, this is what I was missing, and I want to give them what I was missing. But is that, and like you were saying, that wasn't always the best thing for them.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying to raise kids, we have to raise ourselves, because when you talk about raising something, our kids should be doing better than we did.
Yeah, and we always want our kids to do better than we do.
Not all of us, because some people look down on their kids, or they always putting their kids down when they feel like they're doing better. A lot of parents think that they own their kids and that their kids will always be beneath them. But if you're successful, your kids will be more than what you are, and have, because they got you as an example. They got your example as an example, your parents. So if you got grandparents that raised you, and everything that they didn't give you or that you felt, and then you doing that for them, they should be, like I said, high school was it was commendable. I remember a friend of mine's mother gave me money because I graduated from high school. Like, wow, you graduated? I don't know if she thought I was an idiot or something, but she like gave me money, and I'm like, man, okay, dang, my parents didn't do that, but they expected me to graduate.
Right.
They didn't expect me to go to college.
Right.
But I think that generation-wise, things are different and expectations are different. But now, if I go to college, I expect my kids, because they have a college parent, and they have a parent that's at this level. And I think my dad was probably further than my granddad was at that time, especially for black people.
Right. My dad went to college. My mom went to nursing school. So my dad, his expectation when I walked the stage was for me to go to college.
Right. And see, that's different. That's when you have those parents with, if they at a certain level, they're not gonna say, okay, high school is good enough.
Yeah.
They're gonna want you to do more.
I was a rebel. I was like, man, I don't want to go to college. I spent all of this time at school, man. I'm sick of teachers. I'm sick of books.
Right.
I'm sick of reading. I'm sick of writing.
I was there too.
This math stuff that you teaching me, X, Y to the third over fourth, I ain't gonna never use that.
Right.
And that's how I was. But then, as I got older, I'm like, that tool could help me be
More than.
here
Yeah.
instead
And that's
of
why I
there.
say success, that's a
Yeah.
variable, because
Yeah.
even though you are successful, they will look at you as successful where you could have been. And that's what I'm looking at my kids. My kids are probably, you know, I'm happy with them. I could say that they're successful, but I feel like I could have did more, but I didn't know more.
Right.
And I wish I did do some things a little bit differently. I was that strict disciplinarian, and they probably needed that mother type person in their life to nurture her, but they got a big dose of me being, you know, disciplinarian.
Yeah, but see, that's what you know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then I'm preparing them for what's out there, for, you know, my mentality.
The real world.
Yeah. And I remember, like, as my kids was growing up, I had like a Buffalo, New York mentality. Like, hey, somebody do something, you know, punch them in the mouth. You know, you do something like that, and that's not really healthy.
That's every parent. You know, I was told don't start it, but finish it.
Right. And the way my parents raised us was, if they bigger than you, you pick something up. So I was putting that on my son, and it probably was situations, but I also was preparing them. Like, both of them, you got to be in karate. You got to be MMA, Muay Thai. Daughter, I don't deal with crying. And at some point that may help her to how she is now, but it could have been a hindrance, because they probably need that other side also.
Yeah. Yeah, remember we talked about last week, you know, showing emotion and stuff,
Right.
You know, for men and women.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, with you doing that, do you think that was? Well, I mean, you said it was something that you should probably change, but do you think that helped?
Oh, well, I'm saying the things that I would have changed, I wouldn't have changed that. I would have been, you got to learn some method of fighting.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can't cry, or, you know.
No, like, as far as crying, like, and my thing is not, don't cry. I don't never say don't cry, but it's times that you are allowed to cry. Because, and what I was mainly teaching my kids is, if you fighting, you can't be crying.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like,
okay,
because, like, they'll be in martial arts school, and I remember my son, and he was fighting, he was a beginner, and the kid was advanced, and that kid had no mercy. And I remember he, like, kicked him in the face or something, and my son started crying. I'm like, and the karate, the martial arts teacher was like, hope, you know, okay. And I'm like, nah, don't do that. Because if he's out there fighting, it ain't going to be nobody to hug him when he get punched in the eye or kicked in the face.
Right.
So I'm like, nah. And I was telling my son, you don't let nobody do that. You still keep fighting. Because if you cower down when you get punched in the eye, and it's supposed to hurt, you know, but you can't stop and just cry. And my same thing with my daughter. It's like, I show them movies. See how this lady crying and running from the killer, and she tripping over shit, you know, and saying, why did you do this? Why are you doing this? I'm like, that's not helping anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I get at. I'm like, you can't be weak in situations that you need strength.
Gotcha.
Well,
That's
sometimes, like for myself,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm crying and I'm mad about something, you best believe you might want to move out my way.
Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying. I don't mind you crying, but you can't be crying and being helpless. You can't break down. That's what I'm getting at. Like, or something happened, and I remember now she'll probably make it out like I'm this monster or something. But I remember she slammed her hand in the door. And the thing is, like you was talking about emotions, and my thing is, men and women have emotions, and I wanted to talk about that more last week, but we show emotions differently, and sometimes you're not allowed to show your emotions, and I'm talking about across the board, because you could be a woman at work and you could be pissed off, and you'll say, man, this lady made me so mad. Anger is an emotion, but you're not able to show that. You're not able to say what you want to say and be the way you want to be. So you have to know when to suppress your emotions. But the point I was getting at, my daughter got out the car. She was probably like 5 or 6. She slammed her hand in the door. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking she broke her hand. She started screaming, and she opened the door, and I'm like, and I know what happened. I asked her, I said, what happened? But I'm being calm. And she was hysterical. And I'm like, I don't even understand you. Just like that. I said, calm down and talk to me. And she was probably mad and crying. It was hurting. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, I gotta take her to the emergency room. You know, she broke her fucking hand. I heard it. You know, when you hear a door slam and you know, it don't have that boom, it's that coomp, that meat sound. Yeah. So I kind of knew, but she was crying and hysterical. And my thing was, relax, talk to me. I know you feel pain. I know all this. And so she kind of like gathered and she said, I slammed my hand in the door. I said, okay, well, let me see. And then she showed me her hand. And I asked her if she could move, and she did. And I'm like, okay.
You good.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's, now, mama would have been different. Oh, yeah. And that probably would make them react even more. No. Yeah, I mean, because I seen that. I seen that.
Are like that.
I'm saying
the Oscar for the.
Yeah. No, because that's more of a, you know, more daddies are more like that, especially when it comes to the little girls.
Nah, I'm saying I'm still gonna be like, nah, you know, you gotta toughen up. But mamas would have been like, oh my God, and then the kid would have rolled around on the ground this way, then rolled back that way, and you know, put up, because you see it with little kids. You know, they do something, and you see your grandbaby. You know, they bump their head, and some black people be like, "Babies." But I'm saying, black people like, don't look at them.
Right. Yeah, because as soon as you do, that's when they gonna start up.
Yeah, and then if everybody react, then it's like, then it's like, you know, and this Oscar like, for hysterical, you know, like
babies are like that.
But I'm saying, but that's like. But I'm saying it's just different ways of dealing. But my thing was, I got to show that strength and that calmness and don't panic, no matter what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
But other things I felt like I could have prepared. Like, did we prepare our kids for taxes? Did we prepare our kids for interest rates on buying vehicles or buying anything?
No, but I did used to talk to my kids a lot about credit.
Right.
Credit, okay.
Now,
that's great.
That was one of the things I used to talk to my kids about. Now, granted, how their credit look, I have no clue.
But I mean, that you gave an effort to bring something, and that's what I mean. When you raise yourself, you raise awareness in your kids. You raise awareness about yourself. Drugs, talking to your kids about drugs at a young age. The thing that hit me, and the reason I probably never really was scared of hard drugs, was something I saw in school. And it worked. I was in elementary school. They showed us a movie, and the boy got hooked, and he ended up dying. And he was, you know, they showed this dramatic. He got hit by a train, and I'm like, damn, you know. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm not doing this drug. You know, it wasn't weed, but I'm saying like, and I'm saying if a parent can begin teaching, like JD was saying, I'm instilling these things into them early. A lot of times we don't do that. We think, well, my kids will never do drugs.
You can't never say that, but you know, like with credit and interest rates and all of that kind of stuff, I was never taught that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So you got to raise.
When I got older,
you got to raise yourself up to be that. That's what I mean.
Listen, I used to let my kids like, okay, this is my paycheck, this is the mortgage, this is the, you know, I used to let them see the bills, because it's like, if they did want something, which they really never really asked for much of anything, but this is how much money we got to work with.
Okay.
You know, and that's why, you know, tried to instill in them. So.
And what you did, you rose awareness. That's raising awareness of making yourself aware of what's out there. Like when I was going back to the animal thing, if there's bears out there, you got a deer, a doe, a calf, you got to let them know, man, there's things out there that you can't stand up and be. You think you're a mature deer, that thing could kick your butt and make you a meal. You still got to run. You know, it's things out there that we got to prepare our kids for growing up, but a lot of us are not even aware of what's happening. So we have to raise our awareness and of what's happening around us, what's out there, the traps that's going to happen to our kids. And like you said, some things that we didn't do great. I'm going to read a few more comments. This thing is jumping around every time I'm thinking I'm going to start reading something. And JD was saying 12 years old, that's how old his son is, and he's talking about, you know, telling them information about being aware. That's a great age, I mean, to keep doing it, to be instilling that stuff in. I was looking at another video where a guy was talking about how kids are when they're around 12 before they become teenagers, really, and rebellious. He said, I'm showing him how to work on cars, household duties, yard work. I appreciate that. And that's great. I think that's something great. Now, what would you, I'm talking to you, JD, if you're talking about a single mother dealing with, she don't know how to work on cars. She probably will have them like baking cookies, maybe. I don't know. Household duties, yard work. I mean, I think that's important. I'm not here bashing y'all women. I'm just saying, but a lot of our boys are being raised by single parent household. I think JD, what you're talking about is nuclear families. That the man and a woman is important, and that's the part that I was talking about with my kids. I think the woman part would be important.
Yeah.
For them to see the dynamics of that, of how to interact, man, because you teaching your kids everything.
Right.
And he said yard work, and I do have neighbors. I see them out there. They're older women. They're cutting the grass, and they got like a teenage boy. You know.
I see that too.
I mean, like, I used to cut my backyard, I won't touch that. But my front yard, I used to cut my front yard. And whereas people say, you know, I had somebody say, well, you got sons. I do. But like you said, I want my yard to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I probably would cut it. I mean, let them cut it and jack it up, and then I go back out there and cut it again.
See that work.
Well, double work. It ain't double work for me. I'm gonna cut it anyway, and it's gonna be halfway cut. I'm just touching it up.
You know, and again, as a parent,
I know you got a golf course and stuff, man, that you want the greens and stuff to be a certain way, but I'm saying, I mean, like, they gotta do something. I mean, you gotta instill that in them to do something, because what happens is, if you want it done a certain way, then you got to teach them the way to do it. That's what I'm getting at. Because then when they growing up and they never cut grass, they not gonna be wanting to cut grass. And then they're gonna be having their own house, and then you're gonna be looking, look at the grass. I don't know how to do it like that. Like JD was saying, I'm teaching him how to work on this. If now when your son JD becomes a man and he has a girlfriend or a woman, a wife, he gonna know how to do stuff around the house.
Yeah.
They're not gonna have to be calling somebody else.
Right. I tell my kids how to, at an early age, how to cook, how to clean, wash their own clothes. They're like 6, 7.
Right.
You do this. You put this much. You don't put everything that you have in your closet.
Yeah.
Well, I was guilty for it. I used to iron my kids' clothes.
Yeah, that's that mama.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because I wanted their stuff to have a crease. I didn't want to see no double creases. And, I want to make sure their stuff looked nice when they went to school. And I did that up until they were like 12.
Did you have somebody ironing your clothes when you was coming up? I remember you were talking about you had to, somebody had to tell you to be taking a shower again.
But don't get me wrong. My kids, they learned, they cut the grass, they washed dishes, they did all of that.
Okay.
Nah, nobody ironed or anything. It was like,
but again,
when I got old enough,
yeah.
to. And I wanted to look a certain way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, how do you iron?
Right.
You take it, you do it, you line it up, and then, you don't touch this part because this part is hot.
Right.
But you take it and you go over your whatever. You see this wrinkly stuff? Like, yeah. You want to put the heat on that. That's how I learned.
Yeah, I was long because I would iron stuff, and then the kids would clown me at school, dude. Back of your shirt is wrinkled. It's like, just like you comb the front of your hair and the back of your head. So they'd clown you. But okay, so we're talking about raising kids, helping kids. What about when people let their kids handicap them?
So it's like this. This is how I see it now. Society does not let us raise our kids the way that we want to raise them.
Mm-hmm.
The discipline has been taken away because you can't. Now, when we were growing up, yeah, there was discipline. Yeah. Some of the stuff my mom did, when I be talking to her, I'm like, some of the stuff you did was borderline murder.
Yeah, it's attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
I agree.
And I be telling her that. I was like, no, man, you can't put a noose around my neck and throw me off the side of the house because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But now you can't discipline your kids like we were disciplined. So you can't spank your kid. You can't whoop your kid because they can call 911 and you go to jail.
Right. And I agree with you. Go ahead.
You can't yell at your kid because they'll call 911 or they'll go to school and tell the teacher or something. My mom yelled at me and then here comes CPS. Right? There are different things that prevent us from disciplining our kid the way that we were. I was watching a video and the kid did something wrong and the mom, she took the phone away. It was an apartment.
Oh, I saw that.
This boy destroyed everything in the apartment and all she did was just filmed it.
I'd be tearing that ass up.
Yeah. I saw the video. But I didn't watch it. I saw the boy having the house being a mess. But I didn't watch it.
And she
I know. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't watch it because to me that's a quick remedy. You like, the hell. I don't care about what I ain't gonna be bringing up my kids stuff like that. But my kids get jacked up for acting jacked up. I'll put it like that. I know the 911 thing, and I think the thing is that if you explaining things to your kids, okay, you want to leave. I don't care if you're 6, 7 years old. You want to leave, go tell your teachers, and they're gonna try to take you away for me trying to discipline you. But the thing is about the disciplining part, it's something that probably my dad missed. My dad was like a black belt and ass whooping. It's like horror stories, you know what I'm saying? Like them Jason and they hiding under the bed, and the bed will move. It's like they hide in the closet and you see the person walk by. That's how it was in my house when it's time, ass whooping time. And my dad, instead of a butcher knife, would be the belt. Yeah. And we be trying not to make a noise, stuff like that. But I'm saying, the thing is, the part that was messing is not explaining why you have to be disciplining your kids. I think that the awareness, or why are we doing anything that we have to do for our kids? I think we have to vocalize that, just like we were talking about emotions, like, we showing emotions. It's a reason why we have to do things a certain way, and we have to express that and let people understand that, or they just gonna think you're emotionless. Right. But it's like, I gotta be calm to keep you calm. I gotta be calm to keep them calm. Shit could be falling apart, but if they see me falling apart, then that's gonna make it even worse. Right. So a lot of times, if I'm having to get on them and do these things, they have to understand why. Right. This is disrespectful. This is what we can't have. On the Ricky Smiley video, he was talking a lot of stuff I didn't agree with. He was talking about if you got an older kid that's lazy, that's doing all this stuff, that want to be in the streets, you got to let that nigga go. And tell your other kid, take out a life insurance policy on him, and if he get killed, you tell your kids he probably gonna end up dead. He was talking like that, and and I'm saying, and somebody that people probably respect him, but I'm thinking you can't just say stuff like that. Like, I don't know if y'all remember the opening dialogue when he was talking about entitlement and things like that and kids, but to me, that didn't just appear. It got to that point. Right. If you got a kid that's growing up that's lazy, being disrespectful,
they won't always be like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying, for them to be that way, they had to get that. They had to start somewhere and let that graduate. Because my thing was, the first time somebody sucked their teeth, 5, 6, it's like, man, you thought I was Dracula, how quick I was on them.
Yeah, my daughter, when she was 10, and she was like, Dad, I want to come stay with you. I was like, all right, we got it all worked out. And she came. And it was something that I told her to do. And she looked at me and she said, And I got in the face. I said, you know what? I said, do it again. I said, please do it again. I said, I'm going to knock your ass down the stairs. I said, please do it again. I was like begging. I took off my glasses. I was like, please do it again. Roll your head. I said, when I'm going to hit you, your head.
Well, yeah, I never had that problem.
Never happened again.
Now, that's what I'm saying. Like you say, you never had it. But if that problem started initiate, you got to cut it off at the knee.
Right. You got to.
That's what I'm saying. What he was saying about this dude doing it, they being disrespectful. I can't imagine it coming to that point with me and my kids because the way I was raising my kids.
Right.
I was getting all of that out of their system. Right. Some of these people.
But see, a lot of these parents, they don't get it out of their kids' system.
Right. Well, a lot of parents want to be their kids' friends.
Right.
Versus being their parents.
Yeah. There's a lady across the street, man. Her yard looks like shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's weeds and all kinds of stuff. She tells her son to go out there and cut the grass. I'm assuming in the house. Right? He comes outside. He's just sitting on the car. She has to come outside and tell him, you better start it up and you better do it.
About how old is he?
Man, he gotta be, I'm gonna say 16. It shouldn't even be that conversation. Hey, man, get out there and cut the... Or, hey, the yard, whatever. Get out there and cut the yard. He like... He just sitting on the car. Didn't I tell you to cut the grass? Didn't I tell you to take out the trash and put a trash can back up to the house?
And see, and like I say, that's... Nothing appears like that. It gradually becomes that way.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of these parents that's talking about things like that is because I think you are responsible for your kids.
Right.
You're responsible into how they develop as a person.
Right. But see, society has made it safe for your kids.
Right. And my thing is just like everything else, education. See, we send our kids to school and think we're giving them an education. They're giving them an education. Society doesn't have our best interests in mind as a people. Right. So no matter what, we got to go that extra distance to raise your awareness of what's happening to us, and then raise your kids' awareness to what's happening. This kind of stuff is enabling us.
Right.
This is why we are in the conditions that we are in as a people. That's what I'm saying. Having that type of awareness goes a long way with these kids. If you explain to them the things that they're watching on TV, examples, good examples and bad examples. When they telling you call 911 and all this stuff like this, these are the same people that's going to be calling 911 when you getting killed in the street.
Right.
Or they're going to be asking, where am I at when my son or daughter is doing all these things? Well, y'all not allowing us to raise them.
Right.
And if they know you raising them and disciplining them out of love, because if they know that love is there, and I think that things will turn out a lot different. Sometimes if you got drugs, something that was prevalent when we was growing up, because it blindsided us, the crack thing.
Right.
I think that that's something that we have to learn from what Ricky Smiley was saying. When you got that person on drugs and they doing that, you tell your other kids, see, he gonna be this and he gonna be dead, like whatever. And I'm saying we have to understand the environment that we're raising our kids in. You could think, well, I raised them good, so they're not gonna be in gangs. I raised them good, so they're not gonna do drugs.
You can't.
I raised them good, they're not gonna get pregnant. You gotta understand the environment that they're growing up in and prepare them for the environment that they're growing up in, and also what may be down the line.
Right. You could be the best parent in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to steer left.
Now, if they're grown and they're doing what they want to do, and my thing is also, I'm going to let you know.
Right.
Once you grown, like I told I know I had that conversation with my daughter, it's not about what you hiding from me, because I'm not going to have the consequences of anything that happens with you.
Yeah.
As far as if you out there doing drugs, you out there, whatever. My son, you out there drag race, whatever you doing.
Yeah.
I could try to talk to you about that, but if you choosing to do that and think I don't know, the consequences are yours.
Right.
And I'm not going to go to jail for you. They're going to sentence you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get pregnant for you. That's going to be you.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, understand that I'm here trying to help you.
Right.
I'm not here trying to hinder.
Right.
your fun or whatever.
You know, and that's why I say, like, me having 4 boys. I mean, yeah, my boys ain't perfect by any means. However, they were good kids. All my kids, all 5 of my kids, going through school, they were all good kids. Any issues I had with my kids was after the fact that they didn't all grown up.
Right. So then that's not a not a burden on you.
That's not a burden on me. That's on
emotionally them. It is, because we fell for them.
Well, because those are still
that's what I'm saying.
Babies.
Right.
But I had to say that. But those are still my babies, regardless of what age they are.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna sit here and pat them on the back and say, "Oh, okay." No, I mean, you know what you're supposed to do, and like I used to tell them also, it's consequences in life for everything that you do.
Right.
So it's up to them to make that right choice or make that wrong choice, because either way, it's going to be a consequence for it.
You give them the tools and you let them build from that.
Yeah.
Give them the proper tools.
Mm-hmm.
I gave my kid, well, I'll just say my daughter, because me and my daughter were like close.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We were just like Bonnie and Clyde. Right. So her and I would have a conversation about sex.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Wow.
I mean, kind of uncomfortable, but you know, I wanted to do it because I wanted to make her aware of the consequences. Right.
Right.
This is what happens when you do this. This is what can potentially happen if you are intimate with someone that you really don't care for. You know, you being intimate off emotion and stuff like that, right? So I had all of that instilled in her. She was good. But then her mom came and just twisted all of that.
And she got to feel that her mom knows more about being a woman than you do.
Nah, it was
You saying no, she don't?
Dude, that's a whole nother show.
Oh, okay.
But no, it wasn't. It was more to undo.
Okay.
Her mom was set out to undo everything that I did, and she pretty much did. And my daughter got pregnant when she was 15, and it was. You know, I found out that, you know, the mom would pick up the boyfriend on the weekend. And my daughter would go, yeah. And then when she became pregnant, she was just like, "Oh my God, she's pregnant." Well, damn, you pretty much unscrewed all the screws that I unscrewed in. So why are you surprised?
Right.
I mean, and I think as far as a parent, I think co-parenting is, if you're not together, or even if you are together, I think co-parenting is important. To not undo, right, because that could lead to some unnecessary consequences as well.
And a lot of times, like the kids, what they do is, you know, when you are separated or whatnot, they try to play that role. If mama say no, go ask daddy. You know, they like to play that.
Yeah.
But you just have to, you know, as co-parents, you have to be able to communicate so that y'all both know what's going on, because the child is gonna do it. Because my kids did it to me a couple of times.
Yeah.
So.
Well, with me, it was more. Well, my dad said I can't do this, or my dad gave me these guidelines, and he said this, and he said this, and he said this. Well, you can do it because I said so. Right. And it's like, what?
Yeah, and that's the part between the two parents that has to be rectified. And sometimes you can't rectify. I mean, it has to be in order for things to work smoothly. If not, it's not going to go smoothly.
Right.
And sometimes that's the people that we chose. Because I mean, regardless, I know the person that we choose, and we doing that, we are stumbling through life. You know, people are put on, like a lot of times men put on the front to get with women, and these men ain't about nothing. And sometimes these women are not looking for those guidelines anyway. They're worried about, you know, something else. And kids are created out of those situations. That's not ideal. And the person, sometimes it'll be an ideal relationship, and then things go bad. But you tell a lot about a person when things go bad. That's a learning thing for our kids also.
Right.
Because things don't work out, they still got to work. And because the whole thing is the kids. And because things didn't work out with this woman and this man, the kids ain't working out with that man and his kids. Right. For whatever reason, whether it's her fault or his fault.
Right.
And that can't be allowed, because that's when you show, like, if JD, if you know, teaching your son, see this person across the street, see how our yard ain't being cut, you know, blah blah blah. This is the kind of stuff. This is why this is never going to amount to anything. This is why people are in these type of predicaments that they in, because there's thousands of examples out there for us to teach our kids if we take the time to look at them like that and do it. And even ourselves, a lot of things that happen with ourselves, we could say this is an example. You know, a lot of times parents like to think of, well, I'm the parent, I do everything right, do what I say, and you have to make yourself like, and sometimes we have to go back that we did things and say, hey, I did this wrong.
Yeah.
They'll learn from that.
Right.
I mean, even with parenting, parenting don't come with no book or no manual.
Right.
You know, as parents, we as we go.
That's why we fallible. Yeah. And that's why you have to admit that also. Because sometimes we make mistakes. Yeah. And them knowing that you saying, hey, I'm not perfect. I didn't do everything, but you're going to see a lot of things that you're not going to do right. But at least learn from what I did right.
Yeah, because I tried to instill and teaching my kids, okay, look, you don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do this because I did this, and this is what happened because I did this. And, you know, if you do this, I'm going to know that you did it because I did it when I was your age.
Right.
And, I mean, that's how I tried to raise my kids.
Yeah, I laugh. The only reason I laugh because a lot of times we do that, and they think that we was born
yesterday.
Yeah, or they think we was born in World War II.
We just old.
Yeah, because I think something my daughter told me back when I was young. She's like, you know, back in the old days, like when everything was in black and white, when you was coming up. Like, I'm like, what? Like, you know, but we live life. You know what I'm saying? We live life, and they don't see it. They don't respect it because times are different. They don't see it
that way. They don't see that we've already lived and learned and stuff.
Yeah, I grew up without cell phones. It's different. It is different.
To get up and turn the TV with the little knob.
See,
that's remote control.
Right. You see, but then that's why they think we simpler there, because we're our generation. We wasn't as advanced. They got social media. They could do things that we weren't able to do when we were young teenagers. So they thinking that but we have to raise our awareness of what they're going through, how they see life, how we see life, and prepare them for what we see. If you have that child that's on drugs, 20-something years old, that kid is in your house, how do you handle that?
Try to soak.
Well, first of all, the drugs gonna have to leave my house.
Right.
That's the first thing. And more so respecting the house by not bringing it into the house.
Right. So you would have that conversation at what point?
From the very beginning.
When they're little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then if being on drugs is something that they want to do or are doing, you know, you still have another conversation. Like, okay, you know, I know that you're doing this. You know, let's try to get some help, or, you know, talk about the consequences of being on drugs, you know, death, or, you know, whatever.
And it's crazy because sometimes they know and they still get out there and do it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They'll sit there and they'll tell you the same thing. No, I'm not even doing no drugs. And you already know. You see it. I remember my mom was naive. Me and my sister, we used to get blasted. We was like 13, 14, whatever. We used to be zooted, come in the house, munchies, eating popcorn, big bowls of popcorn, and my dad would sit there and look, because he was smoking. He knew.
Yeah.
And he'll sit there and be looking at us like, these kids is high.
Yeah,
my mom be like,
that. He was like that. He was smoking weed. And I just look at him. You know, he come in the house. He's all, eyes all little and red and stuff. Like, hey, man, you smoking weed? Nah, Dad, I don't do that stuff. Whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, man, I smell it on you, man. Nah, Dad, I was around my homeboy and all that kind of stuff, and they was smoking, I wasn't smoking. Well, man, do you think I'm stupid? I've never smoked, and I never will. But growing up,
You've been around it. You've seen it. You know it.
Exactly. It's like, man, look, I can't stop you from doing it, but if you're doing it, man, don't lie about it.
Right.
And of course, don't bring it in my house. I remember one time I came home from work early, and man, the house was lit up. And I walked upstairs, and I just looked at him, man. You see this fear in his face. I was like, man, it's best for you to leave right now, because if not.
So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
At one point, are they gonna become an anchor? Because some people wouldn't allow them to leave because they don't feel like they're prepared, and you feel guilty because you're putting them out. But actually, they're putting themselves out.
Right.
If you put those guidelines there, like you was talking about, you started, and I'm gonna put that even on the gang thing. Because one thing that Ricky Smiley said that I didn't play, he said, you got a kid out there that's in the streets that live with you. He said, you don't know what they're bringing back home with them, because they could do something in the street and somebody else could be coming to get them,
right,
and put the rest of your kids and family in jeopardy. The way these knuckleheads, because you in a knucklehead environment, they not just going to tell so-and-so to come outside. They going to shoot up the house.
Exactly.
So then you're putting your siblings, your parents in jeopardy because you're doing this lifestyle.
Right.
And in that aspect, it has to be a disconnect to say that they're still your kids. But that tough love have to come in to say, you know what, hey, you can't bring this into my house.
Right.
You can't bring this environment that you're going out there to choose. If you choosing, and I would, like 12, 13, whatever, hey man, this gang stuff, I have no respect for those. You telling them, see them dudes, they gangbang. Or you see this on TV, and you see this kid that got shot up because they shot up the house. That's directed, that's because this person is choosing to be in. If you choose this lifestyle,
right,
then you're going against the family.
Right, beliefs.
Yeah, everything. You putting our family, somebody putting our family in jeopardy.
Right.
So I think if you instill that, now if they choose to do it, then they already know, hey, I'm doing something.
There's consequences behind them doing it.
Yeah, and I say, hey man, you join the gang, then we done.
Yeah.
See, I was kind of strict too, because I didn't believe in unless I knew your friends or who they were, and I know their parents, I don't want your friends coming to my house. Don't bring your friends to my house.
Yeah, I was that same way.
Okay, and see, we was naive because we'd bring friends over. I make them hamburgers and stuff. Then if some of the friends may be thieves, things come up missing. But you got to have those conversations with your kids, and your kids always think, nah, they so cool. She's cool, she's not like that. Yeah. But they haven't experienced life to where you have somebody close to you.
Right, that trust.
Yeah, that's stealing your stuff.
Right. They trust that person because they think that person is their friend.
Right.
And
and people would say, man, my mom was right about this person.
Right.
My dad was right about this person. Let me read a few more comments, and we're gonna get out of here shortly because got some things to do. I'm gonna read a comment from Coretta. She said, continuing from my last response, he got a job, got his own place, roommate with his cousin. I appreciate that, and that's great. Sharon, I appreciate you showing up. Sharon Simpson Anderson said, my daughter was working part-time during high school, saved money for her for the down payment for her first car, made all her payments on her own, moved in with a roommate at 18, started working full-time after graduation with a good paying job. Very independent. I appreciate that. I think girls are more independent. Sure. Yeah, they more independent than boys are.
Yeah. My daughter knew about credit. Well, they all knew about credit, but she's the only one that used that knowledge.
Yeah.
She was purchasing cars, and Dad, my interest rate is 14.5%. But I know, like you said, if I pay on it for 6 months, I could take and get it refinanced. Because it's building my credit.
She was paying attention.
Yeah, my boys, man.
Yeah. I mean, they got to deal with girls. So
Dad, I need a cosigner.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
And Avelina, I appreciate you. She said, my daughter almost done paying on her house. Now 37 years old, works very hard. I appreciate that, and great job. Anjanette Wilson, she said, I did that as well. I sat them down and showed them the budget as far as like what you were saying about what you make and the piece of the pie, the whole pie thing. Yeah. This is how much goes here, this is how much goes there. Coretta said, I talked to my kids about drugs. I even explained the effects of each individual drug, from crack to heroin, pills, etc., etc. I appreciate that. And that's something because your kids probably ain't get to see it like you saw it in your environment, in the way that I saw it, in the way like you saw friends coming around. They think that we naive.
Yeah.
And if you talk to them, they'll see that you're not naive. But a lot of times we don't like to talk to them, and see that, hey man, I used to be out there for real. I'm not out there doing, I ain't gonna say like I was on the pole dancing or nothing, but I'm saying I was out there seeing things happening.
You was on the pole dancing?
No, I'm not gonna say, I'm not saying that, but I'm like, hey, you can't, I know how that lifestyle is when you see something. JD said, a single woman I feel needs to be able to change a tire, cook, clean, basic general knowledge. Now when you're saying that, I'm gonna put out there, somebody has to teach them to do that.
Right.
And so a woman saying I need to do this, sometimes a man is there to do it for them. Like I know my daughter had things she don't do. She don't cut the grass, but
she knows how she needs to, right?
I'm hoping so. I don't know. That ain't my response. I don't care about her lawn. So
I'm just saying though, you raising her.
Yeah.
From the stuff that you taught her when she was little, how to do the yard and stuff like that, right? Or was that something that you said your son needed to learn instead? Yeah,
I think that I didn't have my daughter out cutting grass. Now I hand them a semi-automatic and tell them to break that joint down. They'll do that, but like I didn't say you got to cut the grass, like stuff like that.
Right.
Survival instincts, that's what I'm big on, survival stuff.
Right.
But she don't do certain things for whatever. I don't know where she got that. Maybe she don't do certain, like when she was here, she was doing dishes. She'd be like, nah, I don't do dishes. I'm like, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That's fine. Whatever you decide to do, but become, that's on you. Yeah. So I just keep that in mind, JD. The woman should be able to do certain things.
I get out, I paint. I like to paint my house.
Yeah.
I get out there and do that. Whereas I got 4 boys that could be doing it for me. But that's therapy for me.
Yeah. Now, my thing is, like painting, that's, labor. But I'm talking about like to learn how to do something. That is what I feel. If you ask somebody to come change the brakes on your car, change the oil, do something like that, and somebody's coming to do it, and you got boys there, you got to have your boys learning how to do that. So you don't have to be asking somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about just labor. Anybody can do a paintbrush. I'm talking about things, hey, I'm putting up this ceiling fan. Oh, I don't know how to do it. And you asking somebody else outside of your household. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you got your boys there, they need to be in class and learning. They can't be in the other room on their games or outside throwing the ball with their friends.
My daughter was one of the ones that wanted to know everything. It was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and change the oil. You going to come? Yeah.
That's
okay,
great.
Well, I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to let you do it. Grab a 916. What's a 916? Pick it up and read the numbers on it.
You'll probably see more girls wanting to take initiative and learning that than a boy anyway.
Yeah,
but I think that comes with instilling that into that boy. You got to make that important to him.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And I did that with my oldest. My youngest, he was the pretty one, I guess. Or the one that didn't want to get his hands dirty. So showing him stuff, man, was like walking with your eyes closed in a straight line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, you still got to do it. Try to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they may not want to do it. Even when they get older, they may not pay attention, but at least they have somebody to show. Because the one thing, when you showing them how to do something, one thing they can't throw back in your face, nobody showed me how to do it.
Right.
So that's what my point is. You got to raise yourself to know how to raise your kids better. JD said if a father is displaying these skills at home, they will pick up on it. I appreciate that. They seeing how what a man knows how to do, not having to call another man. Even if I have to call somebody to work on something, my AC unit, I'm out there watching them.
Yeah.
I'm out there watching them. I'm watching everything they did.
Yeah.
You know, so, and maybe I learned something from Erica, Christine, I appreciate you showing up. She said, I'm a single mother, but my son has a lot of males in his life. It takes a village for sure. I appreciate that, and that's a great job, and it does take a village. Aisha said, I noticed that men aren't that handy today. They don't know how to fix anything. And I think that comes from the generation and the man in the household. Like, see, just because you're a man don't mean that you should be, you don't know. Like, somebody has to raise that boy to be a man. And if they don't know how to do certain things, then it's going to be because they wasn't taught or they weren't forced to learn certain things. And that's why I think it's imperative. If a woman, a single parent, has a boy at home, and you're going to have a man come over work on something, I don't care what that is, look at something to see if it's broke, whatever, and you got a boy at home. Now, I understand if he's not there and you don't know this man going to come at this time, but if he's there, then have him look.
Right. Watch. Learn.
Ask
questions.
And you can even say, look, I don't want to be having somebody else come out from outside of my household to be doing stuff. You're going to become a man of, if not this household, of your own household.
Right. Of
a household. These are things that men do that you need to learn how to do. I appreciate the comment, Isha. And sad that it's like that. And she said, I was a very self-sufficient child. My mom made sure that I could cook a full course meal. By age of 10, I knew how to iron and wash my clothes. That was Aisha. I appreciate that. And Jeanette said, it's verbal abuse if you yell. Yeah, well, I understand, but I'm saying, says who?
You got to get your point across.
Yeah, so I'm like, says who? And I mean, sometimes when you got that deep voice like a man, you ain't got to yell too loud, but that tone to get them.
Right.
And mamas would be like, do this, do this, do this. I said, do this. Dad'd be like, hey. And
that man did not tell you to.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Erica said, I don't know. My kids still get whoopings, spanked, yelled at, and all that if needed. But how old are your kids? I don't say like 32 or nothing like that, but I appreciate the comment. JD said a lot of old school discipline was wrong and uncalled for, in my opinion. Fear factor. Yeah, and I'm gonna tell y'all, a good movie that I watched was Fences. Denzel Washington. A lot of people didn't like it, but I think what I got out of that, the analogy of fences. Generations have fences, and sometimes your fences will hinder your kids. Sometimes the fences that when you have a fence, you either keeping somebody out or you keeping somebody in. You keeping certain things out, you keeping certain things in, instilling certain things. Fences that we put up because, like drugs, this is a fence that I have. That stuff stay outside. We don't do this. You build fences, but also generations have fences because they have differences. And you have to make sure that you're not hindering your kids with the fences that you're putting up. Kids are in the technology age. You don't want to be saying, I don't want y'all having no cell phones. I don't want y'all on the computer. That could be something they could learn from.
Right.
And so just because my generation didn't do this, don't mean, but there are some things that you could leave out. But I appreciate those comments. I don't want to go too much into that. Sometimes I think we needed it. I agree with you. A lot of that stuff it was overboard. But they didn't know any better. That's what they were taught.
Right. My mother told me, she said, you turned out all right, didn't you? So.
Yeah. Well, you can't argue that. Like, no, actually I didn't. Actually I didn't. I mean, what you gonna say? Erica said, I'd rather discipline my kids now than the state have to do it later. Yeah. And I appreciate that. Dwayne, what's up, man? I appreciate you showing up. He said, the middle between the two extremities is a happy medium. We have the experience to practice proper happy medium. On another note, private is freedom. I appreciate that. And it is. You know, those fences, man. Keep those fences up. They're important. Sometimes you have to put the fences up so that they don't get out and venture out
Right.
And Sharon said, you have to discipline your children at an early age. By the time they are at school age, it's too late. And discipline is not only whipping, yes, explaining why you're doing that. I appreciate that. And Aisha said, my mom only told us to do something one time. If you didn't do it, there was no telling you a second time. You were dealt with after that. And that's because that's how I was.
Yeah.
I'm even to waking up my kids. I know when my son went to college, his coach, man, he's like very mature. He's one of the. And my thing was, man, ain't nobody gonna make you get up.
Right.
So when they was in middle school, high school, I wake them up. I turn the light on. Get up. Yeah. I ain't no shaking and all that. I'm like, get up. Yeah. Next time I'm coming back, it's with a belt. Yeah. So that's how, and that's why I say that was the disciplinarian in me. But then what they got was, hey, when it's time to get up, it ain't no hitting snooze. I'm the snooze button. You hit it, the belt gonna be ringing. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I was. And I think they, it showed when they got older that they got discipline. And I'm great, Isha. That's family, but
when your mama used to call you by your whole government name, you knew you was in trouble.
They didn't call me. They was like, God. That was the name that I knew.
Just God.
The whole curse part.
Boy.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I had a flashback, but anyway, I think a lot of parents work so much that kids are raising themselves. That's a great point. And by the time parents are in a spot to be home, more kids are almost grown. By the time they're in a spot to be home, more kids are almost grown. And that's society. Unfortunately, that's going to be a majority of us trying to work hard when you're single parent.
Yeah, because I went home a lot, but I still made sure
made time for your kids
and
stuff.
I was at every
sporting events and everything.
I was at every football game, every basketball game. I was at cheer practice.
Yeah,
girls basketball.
You see that y'all were afforded those opportunities. Some people I know that was growing up, these people, they were great in sports, but their parents never was able to come to the game or never wanted to.
Yeah, I was the only one. Mom was.
So sometimes, like you say, when you have to work, you got to work.
But they understand that. But I'm talking about some of us grew up with people, they dad to be out in the street.
Right.
Just not there.
No, they don't care. Unless they making it to the pros, then all of a sudden that's my boy, blah, blah, blah. Those are things that we have to deal with as a people. Those are survival things. You have to put food and bread. I think you still have to make time to talk to them about what you're doing and make it more vital for them to be having more discipline.
Right.
If they know the sacrifices you're making, you gotta instill that in them. Aisha said my mom told us, I'm sorry, I read that. She said my mom didn't have to whoop us too much. She would give us the look. That was enough to make us get ourselves all the way together. Yeah, I wish I just got the look.
Man, I wish my mom could.
My mother and grandmother had that look like.
She would bite her lip. She would look at you and she bite her lip. And she bit her lip, man. You knew some damage was coming.
JD said, I have custody of my son and his mother tries to undo the good I'm instilling in him. I won't down talk his mother, but he is at an age where he is forming his own opinion on the situation. I appreciate that comment and sharing that, and I think a lot of us have to deal with that as single dads, and you just alluded to that also.
Yeah.
Sometimes the war between the parents, the kids get caught in the middle.
Yeah.
That's
what it was with me.
And
it still is.
Yeah. It's still.
And my kids are grown.
And
it's still your dad is the bad guy. He's a bad person. He's the one. And like, damn.
But they don't know.
But the kids, the kids, they
don't know. At a certain age, I think like you say, you talking about a 12-year. At a certain age, they're gonna start seeing things for what it is.
Yeah.
See and hear.
He's gonna, your son JD, and from experience, he's gonna, he knows he may not say it, He may not voice it, but he knows. And I'm not gonna say a bad parent, but he knows who is there to hurt more than help.
Right. And like you say, that's important for you not to bad talk on her, because then it's gonna be two of y'all. And you know, my thing is I never had to do that. I never chose to do that. Whatever the kids gonna see, somebody could tell them something about me. But I'm like, one thing they gonna know is that it's nothing but love that they had coming up.
Right.
I'm not one of them that's gonna be like, hey, go bring me the keys, and they look for the keys and I can't find it. If I go in there and find them, I'm gonna beat your ass. And I actually got the keys in my pockets because my football team lost, and I just want to beat somebody's ass. So I'm like, I'm going in there and I'll take it out. Ching, ching, ching. I told you, I'm not gonna do any of that. So they gonna know that not that I did that. I just something that popped in my mind. And Jeanette said, I have a son. He cooks full meals and he is very good with his hands. If someone comes to fixing something, I make him watch. I always tell him it's certain things I can't teach him. We have a lot of good role models around him, and that's a great thing, and I appreciate the comments. Yeah. And y'all have anything y'all want to close with? Hindering and helping your kids.
I mean, you can, as a parent, me, mother of 5, I love my kids, but I don't hinder them. At least I don't think I do. I do try to teach them responsibility as far as, doing certain things, and it's on them. I'm not fixing to 16, if I'm not about to give you no money to go help you get a car. If your car broke, you got to get it fixed. Little things like that. Now I'm a grandmother, but see, my kids be like, Mama, that was us. We got our butts whooped. Now the grandkids, that's a whole nother story. You love your children, but grandkids is a whole different kind of love. But but probably even with them, in due time, I'm sure I'm hindering them. But
yeah, but they got somebody to offset that.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't feel as single parents, especially as mothers, I don't feel that we hinder our children. It's just that, what y'all asking big for? We don't hinder our children. I just think that as mothers, we have to learn things different in terms of teaching them.
It's a different type of love that a mom will give than a dad will give.
Yeah, because mothers are more nurturing, whereas mothers play with, as kids, we play with baby dolls. Men play with vehicles. Right?
Right.
So men are more in tune to playing, worried about his car or doing things with his car, whereas mother, everything is my baby.
Yeah, it's more like this, but I'm not gonna say in a bad way.
Right.
My mom was, single, and I mean, I pretty much raised myself until maybe I was like 14, maybe, and I helped raise my little sister. I mean, we turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
My kids thought I was strict.
My kids thought I was strict. I was.
My mom was mean. And she knows she was mean. But with her being the way that she was, I turned out pretty good. Right. I think I turned out pretty good.
Yeah, that's what my mom said about me.
She said you turned out pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom gave me a compliment about that.
If she had a Facebook, I wonder if you go on her Facebook, see what she be saying about.
I call her.
I could call. Mom, did I turn out pretty good?
But she just called me twice, actually.
Story. He's this, he's that.
She probably looking at it on somebody like, you sitting up here lying.
No.
I think I turned out pretty good, man.
Yeah, I think most of us did.
Yeah.
A lot of us didn't.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, we come from areas and we know a lot of people that didn't make it.
Yeah.
A lot of people that aren't good parents.
Right.
There's a reason for that. And my thing is, as far as everything that I do, I don't look at myself. I look at my people.
Exactly.
And I think that parenting is an issue in our community. I think we do have good parents out there. We got a lot of single parent male figures, more than they lead in or lead on to.
Or let us know about.
Yeah, let us know about. And I think that's purposeful also. And the thing is, like I say, you have to teach your kids and show your kids everything that's happening around them, so that they can learn from. Let them see examples of good and bad, and constantly be about teaching your kids. It ain't about us having fun and doing things like that. Once you become a grandparent, that's okay. That's cool. You're in a point that you could spoil.
Yeah.
You know. And my daughter posts something like, "Oh, well, when I was growing up, these grandparents today, they wouldn't like that." And I'd be like, "Because y'all was awful. Y'all was Chucky children, you know. My grandkids were sweet, you know." I tell them that, but I mean, you have to, you know. Hopefully, they'll raise your grandkids great,
Right.
and instill things in them. And my thing, I'm gonna put this out for y'all. Teach y'all boys some kind of discipline as far as martial arts or protecting themselves. Being a provider and a protector is more than just money, like someone said last week. Financial, like, because the first thing when I said something about provide and protect, I know Miss Jones said something about, well, what if she got a house and the money? Provide means a lot more different things.
Right.
And if you can't protect yourself, you can't protect your family, or you'll be scared. If you're scared to protect yourself,
You're scared to protect your family.
yeah, you're not going to step up and protect. Teach these boys, and that gives them a different sense about themselves coming up as a man, that he don't have to step down or fear any other person. If he has to get into it with somebody, they're going to know that they into it. That goes a long way as far as boys and stuff are concerned. Part of teaching them something. Teach them how to be a man. When we talk about manhood, y'all single women, put y'all boys in some kind of activity, or if only to prevent them from being out in
the streets. Yeah.
in the streets. And that's all I have for today. I appreciate everyone that commented. I still ran. Go ahead.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Shout out to everybody that joined and raising your kids and your kids being successful and stuff like that. Big shout out to y'all. And I'm gonna say this every time I come on here. The line is Gym is life.
Gym is life.
Gym is life. Gym is life. gymislife.mj@gmail.com. And I want to give a shout out to a homeboy of mine. His name is Quincy Jackson. He cooks. He has a little spot by the AT&T Center. It's 215 Coca-Cola Way, Suite 203. Go check him out. Turkey legs, pork steaks, everything. So, support my guy.
And I appreciate everyone that showed up. And I don't know what's happening with my outro music, but I don't have it on no more. So peace and thanks for showing up. Blueprint Kevin Lewis. Thank you. Why the hell did my music not play?